and I'm going to invite my speakers to join me on screen, and I'm going to just briefly introduce our moderator for today, which is Casey Blonski, VP of Sales with North America with American Management Association. And Casey is responsible for North American Corporate Learning and Government Solutions on their team with American Management Association, and he supports their work in the analysis, development, and implementation of strategies for corporate clients. He is recognized thought leader in the fields of learning strategies, sales effectiveness, and leadership development, and also published and quoted in the Washington Post, the New York Times, Reuters, and more. And also want to welcome, we have two amazing speakers joining us, Karen Bradbury, VP of Learning and Development with Unum, and Kim Gibson, Director of Global Talent Strategy with Unum. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Casey to then kick off this fireside chat and allow you ladies to self-introduce as well. And I'm going to hide back here and let you guys know if we get some audience participation and questions. All right. Thank you, Casey. Take it away.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I think I got a sneak peek of the conversation that we're going to have today, and I think it is highly beneficial for people to understand what Unum has done around career development with their employee base. But before we kind of get into it, why don't we take a few minutes and just introduce our speakers today. So Karen, if you'd be willing to introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, my pleasure. So thanks for having us today. Karen Bradbury here at Unum in Portland, Maine. I've been with Unum almost 13 years, and I oversee learning and development. And L&D has been on quite a journey over the last 13 years, but great company, great department, a lot of fun.
Great. And Kim?
Hi, Casey. Thanks for having me as well. I am Kim Gibson. I work in our Chattanooga, Tennessee office, and I'm the program director for career development and employee development at Unum. My responsibilities span across anything from a performance management perspective to career resources and development within the company. Thanks.
Great. Well, so for today's topic, I was doing some obviously research and looking at the organizations that we work with as well. And, you know, a lot of comments that they get from employees that leave, it's either lack of appreciation or relationship with manager. Now it's becoming, I'd rather work at home than in the office. And there's lots of churn here and a lot of different things that employees are sharing with their organization. So I'm curious, what was the impetus for Unum for developing a strategy around career development?
Yeah, I'll start off and ask Kim to jump in because she has been along for this journey the whole time. But I would say really the impetus started a few years ago when our employees were telling us through our work environment survey that they wanted more as it related to the career that they could have at Unum. And we also were hearing that through exit interviews. So we're a fairly large company, a little over 10,000 employees. We have a lot of opportunities, a lot of jobs, and we have a need for really good, talented people. But what we found is that people would come into the company and sometimes get lost in the big machine and not know where to go or how to operate to help themselves get that next job. So when we started seeing it in the work environment survey, and when we started hearing it more and more through the exit survey, we decided that we had to do something. And that's at least what got us started.
Great. And so as you developed this strategy, how did you get management support for this? Because it is critical, as we all know, that if management is only giving it lip service, it's only going to go so far. And you guys were very successful in getting management to be a part of this.
So I can take that, Karen, and you can jump in if you would like. I just feel like we're so fortunate with our company. Our leadership team is very supportive of most of our talent development strategies in general, but from a career development perspective, they see the need. They have that mindset that as long as we are engaging our employees and making sure that they feel like they're getting what they need from a support perspective, then performance is going to come. And so it kind of makes our job pretty easy, because all we have to do is come up with the research and the need and the content. And then our management staff and leadership teams are really supportive of anything that we can actually give our employees.
That's great. So let's kind of get into some of the meat about the program itself. How do employees, are they selected? Do they self-select? Can you share a little bit about how I can, as an employee, take part of this?
Yeah, Casey, I know that you and I and Karen have talked about one specific program that we have, which is a career development workshop. And for that particular program, it started, I think, in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, where we kind of had this idea that we really wanted to make sure that employees could come to this workshop and find out that there are so many opportunities at our company. And while you don't grow up going, I'm going to work for an insurance company, once you get in, I think any of us know that there's so many different types of opportunities that you can get involved in. So when we started the program, it really was to help employees try to figure out where they might fit and how they would actually get involved and learn more about all of the different areas of the company. And so as we were packing this out and trying to figure out what that would look like, we also started trying to think of, well, what is our target audience? And so when we initially started the program, we really wanted to test who would benefit the most from it. And so in those original offerings that we had, we actually solicited our employees from our leadership team. And we made sure that we asked for a couple of different things. One, make sure that they had various levels across the departments. We didn't want to just focus on individual contributors. We didn't want to focus on people that were new to Unum. We wanted to make sure that we had a variety of experience all the way up through I'm about to retire, because we felt like that was important to test as well. And all the way up to our director level positions, because we wanted to know where that cutoff was of what we were going to be doing in the workshop and how it would benefit each one of those areas. So for the first couple of workshops, we solicited those, but the feedback that we got was that it was beneficial for all of them. And so we quickly found out that it wasn't about I'm new and I don't know, how to maneuver in this world. And it wasn't I'm about to retire, so I don't need that career development. And our directors that participated in the workshop were saying, man, I wish I had this 15 years ago. So it was beneficial to everyone across the organization. And one other thing that we did when we solicited the participants in those first sessions was we asked not to just give us high potential employees, high performers, because as we know, employees could be stuck in a position that they're not thriving in because it's just not the right fit. So we wanted to make sure we were giving them the opportunity to grow inside Unum and from a mobility perspective as well. After those first couple of sessions, we did open enrollment, and I think, Casey, we posted our first enrollment for the whole year, the first week of January, and I think it was like on a Wednesday, and by Friday we had a wait list. So the employees are just sponges ready for this information.
That's awesome. And what I love about what you put together for Unum is it's not just a hypo development program, it's a career development for anyone that's looking for it. And I know it's much more than just the workshop that we talked about previously and you just described. What else is there that you offer from a career development perspective?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one, and Kim will keep me honest on this. And the only downside to the launch program is the fact that it can only reach so many people. It's really a brilliant program. Kim has done an incredible job of developing something that really makes a difference in a person's life and career. But the downside is it can only reach so many people. And we knew we had a big issue or a bigger issue that we needed to address. So I just made a list of all the things that we're doing, but our goal is to really be holistic and make career development accessible, to everybody. So we have different things that we do through our digital learning team, et cetera, like a career mobility series where we can hear from different leaders and managers, around what does it mean to have a career at Unum? What advice do you have? How do I get unstuck? We also have a career dashboard within Workday, which is really helpful. Workday is our HR system. We have career tools guide around development for both managers and employees. We have a subscription to LinkedIn Learning for all employees, and we have a group that is focused on building curriculum and building playlists. We also are about to embark on an initiative that's really focused on upskilling and reskilling. So that's being rolled out this year, and that's going to be available broadly, but also, to specific areas that need to focus on building their data and analytics and digital fluency. And then the last thing I'll say is that also within Workday, we're about to turn on some capability around internal mobility. So I'm really, really excited about this. Kim and I have been kind of dreaming about this for a long time, but within Workday and with that internal mobility capability, we'll be able to post gigs. So those short-term, opportunities that where the business has a need and you have people willing and interested in getting that development opportunity, people will also be able to use the system to help them identify mentors. And then there will be an opportunity marketplace where people can view the roles that are available and understand their own match. And if they are a good match or they're not a good match, why? And what are the competencies they could work on and how did they get there? So, and I feel like, a couple of years from now, we'll have even more. We'll continue, to iterate and evolve in this space.
That's great. And what I like about this is it's really a partnership between the employee and the organization.
Yeah.
So you're asking the employee to take some ownership of their own development as well, which I think is terrific. And what a lot of organizations that we work with as well look for that balance of self-management, self-discovery, but also some guided tours. And you guys are doing a great job on that. Would you be willing to share a little bit about the outline of the program, the workshop, Kim, that you mentioned earlier, kind of what the stages are, what the topics are that you cover?
Sure. Well, our objective of that specific program is really to help employees visualize and figure out where they fit within the company. And it's not to find their next role or their next job. So, we don't go into the workshop saying, we're going to pick your next job and this is where you're going to go. It's more about redefining what success would look like for that employee. And we actually redefine that as what would make them feel more satisfied or fulfilled within that role. So we really have a true belief that if employees are able to bring their whole self to work, they're going to feel more satisfied and they won't have that empty feeling of, I've got to find the next thing. And they're going to be more engaged in their work. So if they're doing something that they love, they're not going to always be looking for a job per se. And one of the things that we found in this workshop is that they find that they're in the perfect job for themselves. They just need to know how to maneuver within that job and utilize it to leverage their strengths. So our program is really centered around, first of all, discovering what that looks like. So we do a lot of exploring around their values. We do personality tests. We use the MBTI. We do occupational interests. So we go back to the strong interest inventory, which is kind of a little, if you know that inventory, it tells you the jobs that you actually would be interested in. And it's a really fun exercise because there's so much richness in that inventory to be able to say, we've got those same type of jobs at Unum, and here's where you can find those and meet your interest. So we talk about what energizes them and what drains them from a task specific perspective. And again, that's that leveraging. We call it tilt the floor so that you're doing more of what you love and less of what you don't love. And we redefine strengths in that manner. So you're going to be stronger if you're doing things that you love, and you're going to be weaker when you're doing things that you don't love. And the last thing that we do on purpose is talk about the traditional sense of strengths, which is I'm good at this, because what we also know is we're all good at things that we don't love. And the more that you play to the things that you're good at, and that's what we're told by managers all throughout our career, the more we get stuck in a job that we're good at, but we're not loving. And so we redefine that for them as well. So that's what the workshop is all about, is stepping back and taking a look at that holistic picture and being able to see all of those pieces of the puzzle together so that you can see where that next fit might be for you.
That's great. So how has COVID really impacted the rollout of this, and how has it altered maybe your delivery or the focus based on the employees being at work or being remote or what have you? I know COVID's kind of played games with all learning and development as well as the organizational structures. So I'm just curious how it's impacted with you.
I'll just talk really high level, and then Kim will give the specifics really as it relates to the launch program. But one of the silver linings that has come from COVID is that, and there have been some, as hard as it's been and as tough as it has been on so many of us, there have been some positives, and I'll give you an example. We were pretty traditional in the way we delivered training at our company. So whether it's for new hires going into our claims organization or contact center, they would come into a classroom, they would be in a classroom with a facilitator, people are in seats 8 hours a day, et cetera. And we had to overnight, go to delivering our operational training virtually. And guess what? We did it. And it's actually been amazing. The engagement, the level of proficiency, time to proficiency, et cetera, has been extremely good. So, and I don't think we would have gone there if it hadn't been out of sheer necessity. And then we had to do the same thing for a number of our leadership programs that have historically and traditionally been, you meet in person, you kind of do it a certain way. You might have a little bit virtual, but mostly it's about being in person. And that was true of launch as well. And I think, Kim, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were kind of not excited before COVID about the idea of trying to make this virtual so we could reach even more people. But I'll let you take it from here.
Right. When we started this program, we have main campuses in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Portland, Maine, and in Columbia, South Carolina. And then we do have a remote workforce prior to COVID, especially through our field offices and so forth. And it was always a question in my head of how are we going to get this opportunity to our remote workers? And I was the first person to tell Karen I hesitated about it because how can we get engagement when people are remote? And I get so much passion about being in front of a group of people in person anyway. That's just where my energy lies. And so I was one of the naysayers of it's never going to work. Then COVID hit, and guess what? To keep my job, I had to make it work. And we obviously had to step back and think about how are we going to do this? Are they going to get the same experience? How can we make it the same experience that our in-person workshop actually does? The one thing that we did was we looked at the time commitment. So the current in-person workshop is a 3 full day workshop. And we get the commitment from the managers to support that capacity. But what we did feel when we moved over to virtual is that there's no way we're going to capture an audience and keep them engaged all over the computer without that in-person feel for 3 full days. It's just not going to happen. So we changed it to a 6-week program, and we broke it down into 4 hours per week. And the other thing that we did was it's not 4 total hours live like this, across Teams or Zoom. It can be a combination of anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, but the rest of the commitment of the 4 hours would be self-study or homework that week. And the commitment was that you would set aside time for either the classroom or the classroom and self-study. And the feedback that we have gotten has been just as good as the workshop. And the only caveat I would say that we've had to do, besides Kim Gibson learning about how to work the controls and the breakout rooms and all of the things that make it engaging, is have two people kind of facilitating. So one lead facilitator and one what we call a producer behind the scenes to make sure that everything's happening from a technology perspective. So it adds a little bit of upfront costs for the workshop in that manner, but we are able to get to anyone across the company at any time. And as you can see in my background, I'm coming from my extra bedroom today. So it's working and it's doing fine.
That's great. We've all had to adapt, didn't we? Yeah, I've always worked from home, so I'm used to it. But the interesting thing is working with organizations and seeing them implement maybe 2 or 3 year plans immediately after March 16th or 17th when everything shut down. So that's great. So maybe we kind of take a step back and think about before you implemented this, what were some of the expectations or success metrics that you identified to show success of the program and the initiative?
Yeah, I think I can start, and Karen, please jump in. But I think we really were wanting to hone in on our engagement survey results. That was the thing that was standing out both to us from a talent development perspective, as well as our leadership team. That while we were okay and we were meeting kind of that norm group from an engagement survey results, we felt like it was too low. And given that we wanted a priority around development and engagement from a career development perspective, we knew we needed to work somewhere there. So our engagement survey results is our best metric at this point for learning if people feel more engaged. We have a few questions on our engagement survey that kind of tap to that, whether it is my manager and I have great developmental conversations. We have career development tools that meet my needs, and then my career goals can be met at the company. And so, looking at that holistically, are we moving the dial as we are rolling out these new programs and so forth? And I will say that from an expectations perspective, we really went into this a few years ago just trying it. Let's see if this is something that actually is going to help us move the dial. And when it did, the next question was, how do we scope this thing? Because it is a pretty extensive workshop. It's not one of our least expensive things, but it's not our most expensive thing. But from a cost perspective, we're not reaching a lot of people at one time. It's only as good as you can really get in and dive in with a smaller group of people. So how do we scope it? And like Karen mentioned earlier, what we've developed along the way, I think, has helped us measure that scoping part better, which is offering all employees an opportunity at least once a month to participate in a learning opportunity around career mobility, meaning that we give them tools, tactical tools to help them update their resume, interviewing tips, how to market experiences that they have throughout the company, how to learn from leaders on specific things that could help anyone. And so an hour a month, we have open forums where any employee at the company, no matter who you are, what level, can come and listen and learn. And then each quarter, they can come back and actually share best practices that they put into play with each other. So everyone has an opportunity to do something in that manner. And then the career guide as well, that Karen mentioned, all employees have access to do that on a self-paced online version kind of model that really are the concepts of our launch program. And we can measure hits and participation and all of that with all of our tools and resources. We make sure that we can do that behind the scenes so that we know we're reaching our employees.
Great. Karen, anything you have to add?
Well, I could just add a little bit about just some of the measures, like what we actually saw as a result of that. And one of the things, so the work environment survey, Kim and I were just looking at this right before the call, but we definitely did see some improvements from 2019 work environment survey to now. For example, when asked overall, I feel that my career goals can be met at this company, it went up 4 percentage points, not a lot, but it was going in the right direction. So that was good. Also, what about my manager taking interest in my development, and do I have the career tools? And so it's manager taking interest, and went up from 73% to 81% favorable. So people feeling good about that. And then do I have the tools to do my job? It went from 79% favorable to 83% favorable. So, those are great. I mean, we look at that. Our senior leaders like to see that kind of progress. But I would say it's like the anecdotal stories that we hear, and I'm sure Kim has a lot of them. I just remember one young woman who was in the program who loved the program, really took it to heart. And what do you know? She was in the business. What do you know? She's now in HR. And she at least tells us, she tells Kim and I, that she attributes that, the program played a pretty big role, opening her eyes. So, and like I said, Kim has a lot more of those stories, and that means a lot to us.
That's great. And you mentioned something that is rare, that your management involvement went from 73, I think, to 81, up 8%.
Yeah, manager, yep.
When we look at and when we work with organizations around implementation or engagement, the biggest challenge a lot of the times is management giving it lip service, but not actively being involved. And so how did you kind of give them the tools or the willingness to really jump in and work on this?
I'll start, and Kim, I know you have a lot of good info on this, but I would say in general, and I've worked for a few different companies, but in general, we have really good managers in our company. We have a really good leadership team, and we have really good managers who actually do care. I think what has gotten in the way maybe in the past could be just the same thing it gets in the way for some of our employees. Like, where do I go? What are the tools and resources available to me? Managers need help to understand what's available for their employees. And so, and I think we've addressed that through some of the things that we've mentioned, even through the launch program. But Kim, what else would you add?
Yeah, I would just say our performance management process is centered around coaching and development. And so it's not that traditional year-end self-assessment and year-end review. It's quarterly feedback sessions instead. And it's basically on a premise of what are you doing well, what can you learn or do better, and what are you going to do to focus on your career development. Those are the 3 questions that we use so that it's embedded in our culture, and our managers are held accountable for doing that at least once a quarter with our employees.
That's terrific. Well, I think we're almost out of time. I'm so appreciative, having been in the industry for 25 plus years, just hearing a successful engagement implementation where not only are you achieving the results you're looking for, but the involvement of management and the support of management is critical. So I just really applaud both of you for implementing something like this and really looking at it from a shared responsibility of the individual as well as the organization. You can't do it any better than that. So congratulations to both of you on that.
Thank you.
And with that, I will turn it over to our host and say thank you so much for listening in.